auction I've always found very, very difficult because by the time you do all the due diligence, it takes time, and you got to do on the numbers, and you got to go to see the property, and then by the time, and if you do it on one, you can't go to the auction, you probably get outbid, and then you think, okay, well, the next one. But then you're running around a lot doesn't feel like. So the question is, how do you find below market value deals at auction?
It's difficult. I think that what you'll tend to find with any auction catalogue, not necessarily Strettons, it could be any other auction house's catalogue, there will be a group of lots that most would-be buyers will identify. The purples, as we call them, in that these are the lots that are really, really well priced, that fit the mould, that everything works with it. And those are the ones invariably that you'll get loads and loads of interest in. And they are the ones that you should be bidding on. They're the ones that are great. But of course, the problem that comes with that is that there's you and there's everybody else.
It's pretty vanilla. Everyone can wrap their head around the value add, and therefore there's a lot of demand.
And I think that means that there is going to be a lot of bidders on the day, and that if you are the person who's lucky enough to be the winning bidder, chances are you've paid pretty close to market value, if not above. So that is a challenge. Now, there are different ways, and there are different little cottage industries that people actually have in looking at lots that are perhaps a little bit, on the face of it, less desirable. Something that might look a bit trickier to deal with. Something that's got problems that, in the main, people are going to go, well, okay, I'll stay away from that one. Those are the ones to look at. And quite often, we will find that if something goes unsold on the day, there's often a good deal to be done immediately afterwards. So there's even people who will not bother, will attend or watch an auction, not bother bidding on anything. They'll just wait and see what's left available, and then start doing their due diligence. Or they might have done a few bits of due diligence already to try and work out, well, okay, if I can get this one and I can pay less than reserve, then I'm getting a good deal, because I know what the problems are, and I know how to solve them. But I do think that the crucial thing is getting to know your auctioneer. Most auctioneers are pretty outgoing, talkative people, and when you can talk to any auctioneer, head of an auction team, they'll always invariably be delighted to talk about auctions. Most of us, we're a small breed, a small bunch, because I know hundreds of surveyors, but there's only a handful of auctioneers around, and
Absolutely.
We're all a fairly tight bunch, and we all rub along pretty well together. And I know them all. And they're all auction geeks. They're all guys who love auctions, who live and breathe auctions. And so getting to know them is easy. Picking up the phone, having a chat with them, talking about what they like. And once you develop a track record of buying, your phone call is going to be you're going to be the first person they call. The ideal is that before the catalogue comes out, I'll pick up the phone to someone and say, I've got a lot, I know it's just up your street. Do you want an early in on that, or do you want to get some information before anybody else? And I think that we're in the business of selling, so it makes good sense for us to try and go to the people who we know buy the sorts of things that we've got and say, "Are you in the market? Are you buying?" And so those conversations are really, really important.
And how do you determine whether a lot is better to be sold in the room, as in some, which in most cases it probably is, or perhaps possibly there's something to be said about a pre-auction sale, securing it there is equally as good as, if not better?
Well, I mean, I try and avoid pre-auction deals because from an auctioneer's perspective, I want the best lots in the room on the day, selling, which promotes us as a business and our product. And in my experience, no one ever makes a pre-auction offer out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing so because they're offering less than what they think it'll go for in the auction room. So I always look upon any pre-auction offer with a healthy dose of skepticism. Now, that's not to say that I don't do plenty of pre-auction deals, but it's got to be the right offer, and it's got to be it's got to work for all parties. I think with anything that could be bought beforehand, I'll always say to both parties, should we do an underwrite instead? which leaves it in the room, which has potential benefits to both parties. But I think that, and there are always special purchases. You know, if we've got a strip of land and it unlocks the person's property behind something that they can develop, obviously it's worth more to them than to somebody else. But certainly if a pre-auction offer comes in at the right sort of level, if I think it's more than we'll get in the room, I'll recommend it to my client. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times in 20 years where we've had a pre-auction offer and we've decided to go to the room and the property's not sold for more. So it's a relatively rare instance. But that said, so the deals tend to be right. And I think that, you know, one of the things that Jay talks about in his book that he wrote with Piotr is about that lowball pre-auction offers seldom work. And I think that's right. You know, I always say to people, put your best foot forward, because I'm not going to start a negotiation before the auction.
Exactly.
You make your offer to me, I'll put it in front of my client. If that's your best offer and they want to do it, then great, we'll do the deal. But what you've got to bear in mind is, if I've got 20 other people who are interested in that lot as well, I have a duty of care to them and to my client to make sure everyone gets a fair crack of the whip.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of an auction, right? It's on the day, everybody gets a fair crack.
Because the point is that if someone's registered to bid, or if they've made a pre-auction offer themselves, albeit at a lower level, if I then turn around and say, sorry, I've sold this beforehand, naturally that person's going to come to me and say, well, hang on, Andrew, I might have paid more. So it's always, you know, it's always important to make sure that every angle is covered when dealing with that sort of thing. But as I say, it does happen, and you know, we're always open to those offers. Some we can't. You know, if it's an institutional client or a local authority, or it's a receivership property, then it's rare that you can do a deal. But you know, with most private sellers, it's always possible.
Absolutely.